All right.
Hey, how's it going?
Anyways,
Hey,
the
Dylan, Mr. Dylan Burns. Welcome
Dylan.
Well,
to the Worcester. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing okay. I'm on a quest currently.
What are you on a quest for?
So I recently have been told about this outrage around this thing called Drag Queen Story Hour, and I've been trying to find what the problem is to literally no results. I've watched multiple videos trying to find what people's problem with it is, and so far I've really come up with nothing. So and I was wondering if there's anyone in here who could tell me this on this quest I'm going on. Like, what's the problem?
Drag Queen Story Hour.
Yes.
You're talking about that. I think we watched a video about something.
Yeah, you watched a video about that earlier today. That's actually what started the conversation. Because there doesn't seem to be any, I don't understand where the problem is about Drag Queen Story Hour. I'm really confused.
That sounds to me like other people are going out looking for things to be offended by.
Okay, so nobody in here is anybody in here familiar with even what I'm talking about?
Well, if we're talking about, I think we're talking about the thing I talked about earlier, right? And that, what I saw there was just like, if the parents are cool with it, then the parents can obviously get to choose what the education is. As long as it's not in the being forced in the public sector, that's really the only distinction that I would make. But besides that, I feel like that the public education system has a lot of things it needs to be teaching. I don't know, maybe like American history and civics. It seems to be a failed at that in a lot of regards. So
a little bit of some finance 101 would definitely.
Yeah. Instead of just teaching kids to be consumers, that would be great. So,
teach them how to balance a checkbook the old-fashioned way.
So nobody in here cares then, basically.
Not really.
No.
Okay.
Well,
that's
I mean, wait, are we going to talk about why people care?
Well,
do you not understand why people care at all?
I think people see drag queens as these ultimately always sexual type beings that are gonna bring the kids in and convert them either to the LGBTQ plus gender ideology and or present sexual themes to children. When all I see is a bunch of people in unique outfits reading books to kids. And if the idea is, since some of these people act in adult themes in other places or do adult things in other places, then fine. Then let's ban soldiers reading books to kids because soldiers have to go out and kill people. Let's ban cops reading books to kids because cops have to go and do other adult things in other places. Let's ban teachers from having Onlyfans accounts. Let's ban teachers from having sex because who knows, that might get online one day. It just seems like ridiculous moral grandstanding, the type of stuff I used to see conservatives rail against rock and roll in the 80s.
Oh god, that was a mess.
I mean, it's a moral, it's basically a sexual morality argument, right? That's what they're arguing.
Yeah, the idea that presenting drag queens to youth is perverting their sexuality or perverting them in some way or something. And it's
introducing a sexual element. That's what
is it? Because the thing is, drag queens aren't innately sexual, right?
I think. Do you think
it'd be like saying singers? It would be like saying singers. We can't have singers do it because of WAP. We can't have singers read to kids.
No, because I mean, come on,
I wouldn't want Cardi B anywhere near my kids.
I guess I don't want to make I'm not trying to make the argument, but it feels like you're not recognizing that there is any sexuality at all inherent in the concept of
I mean,
drag.
I guess there is inherent in drag, sex is inherent in drag.
Yes.
Well, but in the child's mind, no.
What's the inherent sexual part of drag? There has to be sex in somehow involved in it. Because drag, as far as I know, is a lot of people getting in extremely unique costumes and outfits.
They're not unique. No, would you say they're extremely unique, or would you say they're extremely unique, or would you say they're they are perhaps extreme or I'm trying not to use the word, I guess, exaggerated in a sense, but they're very I kind of feel like they are perhaps a little bit
it depends.
Exaggerated,
for example,
feminine, right?
Yeah, but what's okay? Then should teachers not be allowed to wear dresses or something? What? Just because something's feminine? What's the how is that?
I understand. I get your point. So I'm going to give this to everybody else. Because you know what? As long as the parents are taking them, we're good. So it's no different and I know this is going to sound crazy to some people, it would be no different than having somebody who is what's called a furry go and read stories.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
That's a good
Same thing.
I mean, I'd be pretty disgusted by that. I'm not even gonna lie.
Well, there's different levels of furries, so let's distinguish that.
So, well, okay, Dylan,
I would also like to point out that I think parents voluntarily introducing their children to this community makes sense, trying to make them more accepting of this community, which has historically been extremely persecuted. There have been people murdered for doing drag, like murdered, killed. So the idea of like introducing to your kids, like this is not something you should hate people for doing. Look, they're lovely. They're going to read you about the 3 little pigs. Like I don't see any problems with that.
Yeah, I don't think that's fine. Or I don't think that sounds bad, but I don't think that's an issue. But what I'm gonna try and like say is like I'm just gonna try and like talk to you about what your argument seems to be, and I understand it. You're like, there's nothing overtly sexual, and it's like, okay, well, there's someone could wear pants.
Wait. Let me be clear. There have been people here at these events who have done sexual things in drag in other locations, but I also don't know how that would be of any relevance.
Okay.
So when you're reading a book to somebody,
would you support like porn star like story hour?
I wouldn't really have a problem with it as long as they're not like filming in front of the kids or something.
Oh,
but also, let's also be clear that that's a lot
more
explicitly sexual too, and the discussion around that's completely separate from just drag queen story hour. Because if this is the standard we're saying, then for example, no teacher should have OnlyFans accounts. If this is the standard we're setting. Which there have been teachers.
That might actually be an okay standard.
I'm actually cool with that.
I am not. Yeah. I'm not cool with that. Definitely during a pandemic where people are trying to get. Nah. We can't. Wait. Why is what they do off campus?
I think that if the parents, right, if they want to put that standard in place, they should be able to put that standard in place.
That's a standard.
Especially with this public, right, and kind of easily accessible as that kind of information can be.
So,
right?
what you're saying is if people don't like it or makes them uncomfortable with their kids being around it, then we can get rid of it.
I'm saying that if you're setting yourself up in a position of authority, right, and then you can be seen to engage in things or be open to certain things that would place you in anything but the position of authority. That right there, being a teacher, is where like you should probably like be accepting responsibility for what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, wait. If this is the standard we're having, though, number one, it should be the kids who are punished if they try to use what they do in their private life off school grounds against them. Number one. And if it's just the idea that they could use anything against them, what if there's a bunch of racist kids who don't like the idea of race mixing? One of the teachers has a black boyfriend. Then should that be something that's not allowed because that could undermine their authority in the eyes of the racist kids?
No. But
no.
Other people have questions, but go ahead.
Just merely like having an association with another human being, right, in any capacity is not relative to the amount of information that would be literally on display about you and your things that you're doing, right, in an explicit way.
Can I ask you,
why does it matter if it's
accessible to children, right?
Well, wait. But that's the parents' jobs to make sure kids don't access porn. So if anything, that would be the parents' fault, number one, and number two, the child's fault. And so both of those are faults of the people who are participating in the school system, and most certainly not the school system of the teacher.
I mean, do you not think like the school system has like any kind of responsibility to police any kind of behavior of the teachers outside of the?
If there's something like if the teacher's a pedophile, then obviously that's different. But if somebody's if the teacher does cage fighting, or if the teacher on their free time, then should we stop them from being teacher? For instance, I know teachers who have boxed before. That's pretty violent.
No, come on. That's a sport. Look,
wait. That's a sport? Wait, does that matter? Wait. How is that being a sport? Okay, pornography. Pornography is a job.
Can I tell you something, Dylan? It feels like you're arguing for no standards at all. That's what it sounds like.
I literally just told you a standard.
But you don't have any. You have standard. But you have no standards. You're applying no standards.
I just. Okay. So, do you think saying no pedophiles should be teachers is a standard?
Sure,
That's a
but
standard. I just gave you a standard.
Almost like,
because that's something that affects the kids. That is something that affects
but
the
it's
kids
essentially
directly.
a crime. You're saying like no
Yes.
murderers.
Wait,
Yes, exactly. That's my standard.
Okay, the standard is no crime, and anything that is not a crime is permissible in any way.
Okay, here's
So
my
would
thing.
you-
No
let me
ugly
ask you
teachers.
this- let me
No
ask-
ugly teachers.
Go ahead.
No ugly teachers.
No. Would
'cause
you?
kids
So would
could
you
bully
stand?
them
So you
for
think
being
like?
ugly.
Let's say the people that marched in Charlottesville and said like Jews will not replace us. Are you okay? You don't think that would be something that you could dismiss a teacher over?
Something
That
that they
wasn't
could
a
dismiss
crime.
the teachers from. That's not a crime.
No, right.
You know
so you
what?
support
It could-
that?
it
You're
could
okay?
be-
You don't
it
think a
could-
teacher would be?
You know what? It could because it could impact the class. Because what if they're racist towards the black students? That could impact it directly.
Wait,
They could give them
but
more
it wasn't
rights.
a crime, right? It wasn't a crime. So you've moved your goal.
So wait. I never said it didn't have standards. And number one,
No, you said you said as long as it wasn't a crime.
The
That
thing
was
is,
your
I
standard.
don't think somebody being a porn star or having an OnlyFans means they're gonna fuck their students, right? So I don't think it's gonna have that direct impact on the education.
True. That's true.
Well,
But if somebody's like an open racist and they have black students, like the correlation there is pretty like obvious.
yeah, but if they're
Sure.
an open racist, that's going to be obvious. It would be pretty blatant, and then your superintendent, your principal,
Dylan.
board of education, they would have that teacher removed immediately.
Wait, may I ask something? Dylan, do you believe in workplace democracy in the workplace? Worker co-ops?
Like mandatory?
No. Like, do you think?
Do I believe in their existence? Like, what do you mean?
Like, no. Like, do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's generally?
I encourage them. It's cool.
Would you get behind the idea if the majority of employees voted that you shouldn't? You wouldn't
because
be able to get behind that.
No.
Really?
Okay, well, let's say the majority of workers said no black teachers. Then does that mean like, well, I guess no black teachers? So obviously, I don't believe like things like that should be even up for a vote.
Mr. Dylan Burns.
I don't
That
know,
was who was it? Let me ask this: who was it that brought up OnlyFans?
I did because there have been cases of teachers getting fired for having an OnlyFans.
Okay, so Mr. Dylan Burns, you have just volunteered yourself for explaining what OnlyFans is to Chocolate for Healing, who is currently in the call. And she has
OnlyFans is a website where people post pornographic images for themselves, or really any image of themselves, for money, and people will pay money to have access to that feed. There you go.
Oh,
There
fuck no. Sorry.
Well, here's the question. So Dylan, I
I'm
gotta
a
ask, like,
mother.
do you not? If like, do you
I'm
not?
a mom. Sorry.
Okay, so Dylan, like, all right, do you not think that it would affect a student-teacher relationship if children who should not be seeing it and their parents should police them, right? But if a child or someone in class, let's stop saying child, even though that might be the case. We'll say maybe high school or something. Not that it's too much better. That is better, right? But if they have seen pictures of their teacher naked or having sex, do you not think that would affect their relationship in the workplace and their ability to be a teacher?
If anything, that would improve my performance.
Oh, come on. Be real. Stop memeing. Like, you're sitting here making all these arguments, and then you just make a stupid meme because, like, you have to get out of it.
I mean, I think it hypothetically could, of course. But again, I think the responsibility doesn't fall upon the teacher here. I think the responsibility falls on the parent and the student here. And again, I think if it somehow affects that relationship, the responsible thing to do would be for the teacher to go to school administrative staff, tell them, hey, this student is acting out of line with content of stuff that I've done in my private time off of school property. They should be punished. And then the child should be punished accordingly.
No.
Wait,
No,
you
that
don't
is
think?
li-
Wait.
no, 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 no,
You don't think if a
listen.
student harasses their
Listen,
teacher with their
hold on,
nudes that
hold on.
shouldn't?
The point that I'm going to make is not going to change based off of anything that you're about to say in the next 30 seconds, right? So, the point that I'm going to make here is that if that is going to be your standard, then for every single class that you have, and for every single class that you always are going to have, that asshole student that's going to point that out, right? So now this becomes a recurring problem for the school administration to have to deal with, to be able to facilitate this person's participation in this particular type of activity. And that's where, if the parents don't feel like that their teacher should be participating in that type of thing, if they don't want them doing that, then the teacher or the parents should absolutely be able to say, we don't want you doing that kind of stuff because that's going to distract your ability to be able to.
Let me ask you a question then. What if there was a scenario where we had some that somebody was a service member, CTV, and they killed people in Iraq, and there was images published of them killing enemy soldiers in Iraq, and that compromised their relationship with their students?
How would that compromise their relationship with their students, Dylan? How would it compromise it?
Okay, student comes up, there's a anti-war student who comes up like, you're an imperialist pig fuck, I hate you, I hate America, I don't know, burns an American flag. Some like really edgy, like anti-war teenager.
Well, their parents should punish them, right?
Yes, that's the same thing I believe for this as well.
Okay. So you think basically like there should be no standards for behavior outside of the workplace or in the classroom when dealing with children.
That's not
other than the law. That's it.
Other than the law, not really, not many. If you have to give me a reason for why we should have the standard, and I haven't been given a good reason.
You don't think that it compromises or that it makes like perhaps a strange or unusual relationship to have like a teacher perform sex publicly and then go and engage with students?
Like strange, unusual.
Right.
Okay, why is that bad though?
Because I don't know. I think, do you not see anything wrong with that? Do you not see anything wrong with
I don't. I see zero problems with
weird.
it. Why is it bad? Okay, it's weird. I don't care if it's weird. I think people being conservatives are weird. I think people voting for Donald J. Trump was weird. That doesn't mean I don't think they shouldn't be teachers.
I mean, yeah.
Somebody, for example, let's say you're a Mexican student, or let's say you're a Muslim student, and you know your teacher voted for Donald J. Trump, and Donald J. Trump publicly said we should ban Muslims from entering the United States. Do you think that could compromise their relationship as well? Maybe it should. Maybe we should ban Trump supporters from being teachers.
Here, can I ask you a question?
The standard could be used to such a strange extent.
Let me just ask. Okay, but can I ask you a question? Like, do you support like anti-sexual harassment or things like that in the workplace?
Of course.
So do you think like, do you not understand, or well, not understand, but do you think that, hey, do you not think like, let's say I'm gonna say a boss, but like a supervisor or something like that was engaging sexually outside of a workplace, do you not think that would like perhaps influence something of their relationship to their female employees or something like that? Do you think that could be construed as
a boss
something
having
that
sex outside of the workplace?
No, like we're talking about OnlyFans and things like that, right?
So a boss having an OnlyFans outside of the workplace, you mean?
Sure.
I have zero.
At that point, it's different because we're talking about with adults, right?
I have zero problem.
It's different with adults and different with like with adults who are in charge and of students who are not adults.
I have zero problem with this. I have zero problem with a boss of some company being a porn star as well as being a boss.
I'm almost going to retract it because I mean the entire distinction that we're really discussing is between adults and children within classrooms and things like that, which is bringing it back to the point that we're discussing of drag in story times and things like that, which is the only thing that makes it relevant, really.
Okay.
So let me say something about the teachers and real quick, because I got kids to get into bed. As someone who is studying to become a teacher, I can tell you that if you let your personal life leak into the classroom, then you have failed everything that you're taught in the ethical part of being a teacher. All right? There's your professional life and there's your personal life, and at no point should your personal life, other than like personal experiences, right, something that can relate to the subject matter, but at no point should you ever relate to your students what your political leanings are, what your ideals are. You're there to teach them content and to help them develop their own ideas, not to tell them yours and push yours on them. That is what you're taught as you learn to be a teacher.
Well,
am I supposed to respond? I mean, okay. The thing is, like,
Go ahead.
let me respond to that quick. Okay, the thing is, the difference between like, if the teacher was like, "Oops, I slipped my nudes on screen. I guess you all have them now." That's different. But if a student goes out and that's different because the teacher just showed the classroom their nudes publicly. It'd be a problem with any teacher showing their nudes publicly to a classroom. That's why it's bad. You shouldn't present your nudes to your classroom. You're directly giving them sexual content. The difference is when you have OnlyFans, number one,
if you were to find me one teacher, if you found me one teacher that would try to look up nudes on a controlled network like that, you show me one teacher. And I will,
I'm telling you that's bad, and it shouldn't. But the thing is,
but what you're doing is you're saying that it's bad. But what you're doing is you're coming up with a scenario that isn't going to happen.
Yes, because
it's not going to happen.
Was fucking not going to happen either. The idea, they're going to present them the OnlyFans. The thing is, let's say I'm sure you know teachers. Let's say they send nudes to their husband, and a kid is able to acquire them online.
They're not going to do it from a school computer.
God, I can't talk at all, man. This guy doesn't like hearing a different point than his. Holy shit. Let me talk, man.
No, I like hearing realistic points. A teacher is not going to
let him make use a
closed network, a controlled network to send news to their spouse.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen. Let's talk something realistic.
Oh my God.
All right, hold on. Look, listen. I feel like it's time for me to grab hold of this. Okay, I'm giving you a server mute, right, Dylan? Do not force me to, right? So let's chill for a minute. I got a question from the chat because, this whole time CTV sitting there paying attention to the chat because CTV is, in fact, the people's champion. So if you want to be able to have your voice heard during the middle of this conversation, your best bet is to be in the Wolf's Den chat so I can see you. That being said, right, Operation Madman has a question for you, Dylan.
Okay.
It has been brought up. Hasn't been brought up yet that teachers can have sexual relationships with their students, right? And then how could you punish this, right? So and then another question was rather ask how smart are children in general and should there be protections for them, right? So we got two contrasting questions.
I got two questions. I got two answers for you then.
So I know you're ready, right? So Dylan, lay it on us.
So I don't see how somebody doing something sexual outside of the workplace, not with students, would at all mean that I'm okay with teachers having sexual relations with their students. That's a direct relationship they already have in the business as the teacher with the student. Somebody in having sex or posting sexual photos for people over the age of 18 to view outside, which is not directed at students or youth, has nothing to do with them having a direct relationship with their student. And in most cases, at least if we're not talking about college, would be considered like pedophilia. Like I've already said, I have a standard against pedophilia. I don't think pedophiles should teach their schools. I don't think that's an extremely radical position. Can you restate the second question? I didn't really understand what it was, like protections for kids or something.
Oh, what the fuck?
Hello?
Well, I don't know.
Sorry. So rather ask how smart are children in general and should there be protections for them?
Should there be protections for kids? Of course there should be protections to kids to keep them safe from whether that be predators or violence or any number of things. Children, I think, are smarter than people give them credit for, but they're still developing and they do need to be
wouldn't that just honestly play exactly counter to what you're saying though? I mean, if you think there should be some type of protections in place for the children, this is where nobody forced the individual to become a teacher. They made a conscious decision to want to participate in that particular field of, employment or meaningful activity or however somebody wants to characterize it, right? They wanted to go into teaching. And because of that, there are just certain things that are required of your behavior in order for you to do that, right? Society tends to have these types of things already in place, and I don't see any reason why parents should be able to.
How does this endanger the kid, though? Because I don't see it as endangering the child. in any way.
Well, I mean, I get that you don't, right? But we've laid out a pretty good case that
I don't think you have.
The
I don't think anybody has.
The distraction of infatuation, potentially there with a child being able to view an adult's OnlyFans, right? The distraction
they shouldn't be able to. The number one, it's
18. You're right. They shouldn't.
There's so many barriers. But the thing is, if we then using this logic, then let me ask you a question: if somebody's a rape victim, should they be allowed to be a teacher?
Yeah.
What about somebody who was raped while a teacher? They walked home one day and they were raped.
Yes.
That could be used against them 100% by students. You don't think students are cruel enough? Yeah, I've been bullied by kids.
Look, and that right there is where it's a completely different scenario where we're talking about somebody that chose to participate in a particular industry as an adult versus somebody that had someone's ill will forced upon them and their body. It's categorically different.
But
right?
yeah, well, of course, the circumstances, of course, different. But your problem is that it could be used against them by students. Number one, the rape story is going to be public news, and it's going to be more accessible to youth anyway. And number two, this could be used to bully a teacher. Obviously could. My thing would be, of course, though, that in that scenario, you punish the people using that as a tool against them. And when you think of all the barriers that are supposed to be between a child and that specific teacher's pornography, number one, there's an... I can't...
That's why...
Number one, let me finish.
Someone stop I
can't... Sorry. Let me... Number one, there's... Yeah, that's the thing. I can't hear myself.
Hey, Fat Buckeye, you got it. Thanks.
I got it.
Number one, 18-year-old, you usually need to be 18 years old to access the OnlyFans content. Number two, you need to pay for it. Number three, someone would even need to find its existence. And number four, the child would need to, of course, get past their parents to do it. There are barriers between them.
I don't think you should have to pay for OnlyFans content. I think if creators want to put out some freebies out there for regular viewers, that they were to be able to do that.
I mean, if they want to, but most OnlyFans content is paid for because people are working.
I'm just saying we shouldn't be telling people they have to make everything paid. There should be some.
If you want free porn, you can go to Pornhub. You can go to Pornhub, right? But OnlyFans is used for creators to make money off of their content.
So Dylan,
I mean, I get that, but I'm just saying, it's just the same thing. Like, you don't. Like here on Twitch, right? We don't force people to be subscribers in order to be able to view the channel, right? Because we want people to give a fuck about what's going on here, right? And then want to participate by subscribing to the channel, right? So, maybe you offer some free content, right, in an adult field. So that's where the prerequisites to be able to access the website become a lot more stringent, right, and tied to credit cards. And then there's still ways for kids to be, and you said yourself, kids are so smart these days, right? They can easily manipulate your credit card numbers, get them out of their dad's wallet. Next thing you know, they're searching their OnlyFans and they find their teacher, and then, man, we're in this situation all over again. So
can I ask Dylan a question?
Sure, but can I respond to that quick? That was a lot.
Yeah, please. Okay. I just wanted to ask.
So, I do believe children are smarter than we give them credit for, and they are crafty. But again, we build up a lot of things to try to put up enough barriers as we can within reason, right? They of course will be able to access pornographic content if they really are dedicated to and they're able to do it. But again, that's not the teacher's responsibility to put those to stop the creation of it, period. Children are crafty, they can access porn. I don't see the relevance.
Yeah, I still don't think that it's wholly genuine, though, to try to hold the parents completely responsible, considering that it's
not only them, it's also the child's
society
fault.
has just been molded over the last 60, 70 years to put it all back on them. I think society as a whole has to come together and help the parents. And that's kind of where it comes into a little bit different philosophy, where I feel like it takes a village, right? Not just the parents themselves. It really does take a village to get, people to be able to chill out in some cases, to see things from different perspectives, to be able to raise a full, fully grown person with empathy and sympathy and all of these things. And if you have two people that are working their asses off to make sure that they're providing the bare essentials in the economy that we have, that I know that you've spoken about very, very many times, right? I feel like the society in this case shouldn't, especially at the appropriate level, right? Whether it's county level or state level or et cetera, right? Closer to the constituents. If those constituents vote that they don't want their teachers participating in OnlyFans, I don't see any problem with that myself.
So you agree with me?
No, he doesn't.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't understand any of that.
Can you make it in one sentence, CTV?
One sentence. Dylan needs to go back and rewatch the VOD and then just hit the like button. That's what it is.
Okay. What are you gonna ask me, Brento? Are you gonna ask me, Brento?
You are such a smart ass.
My question is my question is essentially like, let's say there was a teacher, they had an OnlyFans account, right?
Uh-huh.
And in their OnlyFans account, their content was like, I'm a teacher and the person or the young woman or the man sleeping with me is my student. Doesn't mean high school or anything like that, which would be illegal, but they have student teacher relationship sex in their content, right? Kinky. So would you say like, oh, that's just fine, and if people stumbled upon that wouldn't be a problem?
I mean, again, if people stumble upon it and then access it, I believe that person doing that, the youth doing that's the problem in any context. But the specific role play doesn't change at all. Like, does it worry me if they're doing that? It makes would it worry me? It'd probably make me raise an eyebrow. But the idea of like making it so people who do those types of role plays can't be teachers specifically, like, would we make it so porn stars who like did a cop role play once specifically can't be cops or construction work? Like, this seems like
no, because they're not in charge of children.
Well, no. Well, again, if this like leads to them, if they're pedophiles, and this is evidence that could be presented one day of them being pedophiles,
you might think if they did a cop role play where they are like doing illegal things and hurting people, you might say maybe that's disqualifying for being a cop, right?
If somebody did,
let's say they did role plays where they pretended to be a cop who was really unjust and racist and beat people up for fun because of their race, and then they applied to be a cop. And then they said, hey, didn't you do a lot of these role plays where you did this really terrible stuff to like other races for fun? Do you think that would be a disqualifying like consideration?
You know what? In this very oddly specific scenario where
we're being very oddly specific,
then
are we not?
I guess I'd be fine with disqualifying somebody who is sleeping in a scenario with underage students.
No, not underage.
No. But the role play would make them underage.
No, not even underage in role play.
So they'd be students. It would be like college.
College and 18. They're both adults.
Well, then, I guess maybe due to the power imbalance. Again, this is very oddly specific. It doesn't really apply to my main point, but sure, I guess so.
We're being very odd. Period. In this discussion, we're being very specific as well. Correct.
I mean, I don't know, because I'm talking about things that happen in the real world. I don't know.
I mean, but we're making hypotheticals, and any hypothetical is going to be specific. And
okay, if there is a scenario where they're specifically doing that, and it could be shown as maybe there's a tendency for this teacher to have sex with students or want to have sex with students through that role play being shown as a desire to do so, then I could see that maybe as a disqualifying characteristic.
But you can't prove that, though. You can't prove that.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't like pass a law about it, but I could see that personally.
But so there wouldn't be a law, but you would be able to say, no, this person, if a school district said, look, you've made this content and it's not illegal, of course, but it's your own personal content, you've done it in your own time, but we're not comfortable with you being a teacher to our students because you've produced this content.
You've produced this content where we think you might actually want to be sexual with a student. That's the problem. The problem isn't that she produced sexual content. The problem within that instance possibly be that she might have a desire, he or she might have a desire to have sexual intercourse with a student, which again would then hit against my pedophile rule.
Right. Yes, of course. That's against the pedophile rule, but I'm not saying that they produced that type of like, it was where I'm saying consensual adults, even in student-teacher relationship kind of content, right? So it's not within that. I'm simply saying that you do have standards for sexual content that you would like people to be able to adhere to and say like, no, we don't feel comfortable with you teaching our kids because of this sexual content, which is legal and was not illegal that you produced. Correct?
Sorry, say that again?
You do have standards for producing legal sexual content that you would look at someone's production and then say, we don't feel comfortable with you in this role teaching our kids. even though it's not either pedophilic or illegal.
Yes. I guess so. Yeah.
Okay, right. And that's what I'm saying is you have a different bar or a different standard than others, but it's still an arbitrary standard based on sexuality.
Well, no. My arbitrary standard would be because I think that could maybe mean they might have sex with the student, not the fact that somebody could use it against them. A student could possibly find it one day and use it against them. The reasons are completely different.
Sure. I guess, but that's still only because you feel that yours are justified and theirs are not, which is fair.
Well, yeah,
I guess.
but that's how that's anybody's argument for anything. Like the Iraq War, I feel it was unjustified. Someone feels it was justified.
Right. But that's why I said it's fair. It is fair. I wasn't saying you were being unfair. I'm just saying, but like I do think it's and you can argue for it, right? But I don't think you can necessarily. And I shouldn't say you necessarily because I maybe don't know if you've done this, but like I think that it's not unfair necessarily for other people to uphold standards of these types in relation to what they want to see for the educators of their own children.
I understand why they're doing it. I just find it to be a ridiculous standard.
I see. And can I bring it back really quick? We jumped into this realm of like people producing their own individual porn, and the entire discussion was on Drag Queen Story Hour, which is not inherently pornographic. We've just jumped to extremes to try and make these differences like, obvious, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So back to Drag Queen Story Hour. Nobody here has a problem with that specifically.
No, I don't have a problem with it specifically, but I can see why others do.
Okay. Well, then I think I came here looking for something. I somewhat discovered it, and I appreciate the conversation, everybody.